Howdy ho peeps, welcome back to Bemusing Bill. We got some more box cutter Pazzy on its way, and it is because of our wonderful Patreon, Matt. Matt, thank you very much. I was hoping to get back to some Vinnie, and this is cool. Now this title, You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train. Now this immediately made me think of a line from a System of a Down song called Deer Dance. So I don't know if you're familiar with the band or the song, but there's a line in that song. Now, you know what's cool is that System of a Down is a socio-political band. Sings about social issues, what's happening in the world, politics and everything, just like Vinnie. So I also know that Vinnie likes metal, maybe even influenced by metal, I remember reading. So is he a fan of the System? Wouldn't be surprised at all. He fits right in there with System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine. He's all about that. So I'm dying to hear what this is all about, folks. I am dying. So the link will be below in the box, as always. And please like, share, subscribe. You want to be a part of our Patreon community, and that would be really cool if you do. The link is below, and believe me, folks, even $1 a month keeps the train rolling down the tracks, my friends. We're going to hit up this. Oh, by the way, my wife said that she pulled up lyrics for me, and I see that there is another tab there. So let's check out the song. Let's listen and hear what Vinnie's talking about and enjoy. So, kids, buckle up. I'm going to pull up the screen. All right, and let me make sure. Yeah, and let's do this.
Governments lie all the time. Oh, not just the American government. It's just in the nature of governments. Well, they have to lie. And since they don't represent the people, and so since they act against the interests of the people, the only way they can hold power is if they lie to the people.
Right.
You don't know what I know. You can't see the spreading stain of deception. I am cruel to myself. Things will never be the same.
If they told people the truth, they wouldn't last very long.
I will hold my silence like a weapon in my hand. If I used it, I would murder myself. You could never understand.
Columbus came ashore, greeted with nothing but niceness. Sailing west in attempt to find golden spices. Dominated by the popes and frenzy for ISIS. The Catholic Church expelled Jews and claimed it was righteous. The first man to see land would get a reward and get a yearly pension for life, clearly from God. A young sailor saw land, said we isn't far. Columbus lied, said he saw it the evening before. They touched ground, they were greeted by the Arawak. Columbus had them locked up as prisoners in an hour flat. He wanted to find a source of gold, and that was that. And when they thought that wasn't fair, then he stabbed their back. When there was no more gold, he took slaves instead and left 250,000 Indians in Haiti dead. The men died in mines, the women died at work. The children died from lack of milk and they died in the dirt. They were just taking advantage of a passive people. They were just being the savages of massive evil. That's the church work, that's the path of massive ego. That's the blood of Abraham being stabbed by the steeple. At 16, 19, they were patiently waiting.
What was that again? That's the back of Abraham getting stabbed by the steeple. Steeple as in the church.
Villages of massive evil. That's the church work. That's the path of massive ego. That's the blood of Abraham being stabbed by the steeple. At 16, 19, they were patiently waiting for a ship to carry slaves that was changing the nation. The white man was a cannibal praying to Satan. Hatred, contempt, or pity, or patronization. That's the cornerstone, everything racism based in. The African had a more advanced civilization. Black was slave, master was white, rationalization. 50 million being dead, that's Western civilization. At first they appeared in the north, and they were helpless in the face of superior force. And all of them were chained together, they really was lost. Racism isn't natural, it's merely divorce. Before the slave trade, black was considered distasteful. By the Oxford Dictionary, I found it disgraceful. It's not a natural tendency to be bitter and hateful. It's a natural enemy of the critical staple. Slavery grew.
It's not a natural tendency to be bitter and hateful. Yeah, that's true.
Distasteful. By the Oxford Dictionary, I found it disgraceful. It's not a natural tendency to be bitter and hateful. It's a natural enemy of the critical staple. Slavery grew as the plantation system grew. The reason for that's kinda easily traceable. Society of helpless dependence was capable of saying fuck a slave master, you in slavery too. 7 slaves were put to death for murdering master. Fear of slave revolt had them developing faster. You a Catalan killer, an elegant bastard. I would burn the white man while smelling the ashes. From time to time, white man was part of the resistance. White indentured servants wanted no part of the system. King Philip's War showed that if people would listen, that they could maybe break the complex chain of oppression. Tyranny is tyranny, but that's a concession. But the women, they was treated like that of possessions. Black women had it work cause they was abused. That's the white justification of Aryan blues. The next move was to dominate the Mexicans. James Polk dominated them like they was next to kin. He sent Colonel Cross to lot of them and let them in. 11 days later, his skull was crushed, so message sent. We take nothing by conquest, that was the mantra. The military wasn't human, they were just monsters. Henry David Thoreau refused to pay his taxes, denounced the Mexican War and got locked in shackles. The 20th century opened, anger re-emerged. Reality of ordinary life was being heard. Anarchists and feminists came from factory work. Communism, socialism seemed to be rebirth. War is the health of the state, is what Bourne said. And if you was born around that time, you was born dead. The Espionage Act had people confused, cause it was double talking, they didn't know how it be used. Supposedly it was an act against spying. Du Bois noted that was bullshit and they was lying. Charles Schenck was arrested in Philadelphia for printing and distributing leaflets cause they was helping you. He was indicted, tried and then found guilty, and spent 6 months in jail. Don't that sound silly? Had his freedom taken away by his own nation. But there's a lesson, do not submit to intimidation. The act still exists today and the shit is real. Supposedly Kennedy tried to have that shit appealed. Eugene Debs did 10 years for no purpose. He obstructed the recruiting and enlistment service. The post office started taking mail privileges of magazines who printed anti-war sentiments. A socialist named Fairchild had it right. He said that they can shoot me but they can't make me fight. They sentenced him to a year in jail and that was reckless. 65,000 men, conscientious objectors. They were sent to army bases to work there. They were treated sadistically and were hurt there. They were strangled with a hemp rope till they collapsed. And officers punched their stomach and their lower back. A garden hose was placed on their face with a nozzle about 6 inches from them so they couldn't swallow. The war ended in 1918. The government was just trying to wipe the slate clean. Hemingway wrote Farewell to Arms. Dalton Trumbo wrote Johnny Got His Gun. The war was over, but they didn't learn their lesson. Twin tactics of control, reform and repression. The patriotic fervor of war had been invoked. That's why the country that you live in is a fucking joke. You cannot be neutral on a moving train. This is a story about the lies that your teacher told you. This is real, actual, factual. No lies in the whole record. If you don't believe me, look it up. I'm trying to share the shit that I learned with y'all. Do the knowledge. Your government does not care about you. The people in power do not care about you. Understand that. Power to the people.
Soon, the United States was waging war in Korea. if you study history, what you learn is that wars are always accompanied by lies. Wars are always accompanied by deception.
Wow. Vinny, man. Holy cow. So much to take in here. Who is doing the narrating part and the female voice? Who is doing that? That's oh my God. Howard Zinn. Howard Zinn, You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train, is a 2004 documentary film narrated by Matt Damon about the life and times of historian, activist, and author Howard Zinn and his involvement in some of the most important social movements of the past 50 years. The film was directed by Deb Ellis and Dennis Mueller. Oh, see, I had no idea. Let's see. All right, let me start hitting up some lyrics here then. Governments lie all the time. Well, not just the American government, it's just in the nature of governments. Well, they have to lie, and since they all represent the people, in some sense, they act against the interest of the people. The only way they can hold power is if they lie to the people. And that is true. That's always been true, and it's sad but true. You don't know what I know. You can't see the spreading stain of deception. I am cruel to myself. Things will never be the same. If they told people the truth, they wouldn't last very long. That's the truth. I will hold my silence like a weapon in my hand. If I used it, I would murder myself. You could never understand. Yeah, that's that girl singing that part. So I got to figure out who that is. And I'm just making a guess that it's that Zinn fella, Howard Zinn. That is that right? Did I say the right name? Yeah, Howard Zinn. I bet you that's the guy who's narrating it. So they took the name probably from the documentary or something with Howard Zinn. That's where the title of the song is coming from, not System of a Down. But, hey, wait, listen, I'm a metalhead. It was a guess. Columbus came ashore greeted with nothing but niceness, sailing west in attempt to find gold and spices, dominated by the popes in frenzy for ices. The Catholic Church expelled Jews and claimed it was righteous. Yeah, I remember reading that Columbus was able to harbor a whole bunch of Jewish people and to take them. I don't think he brought them to the New World. I mean, he would have brought them to the Bahamas, if anything. But I guess he took them somewhere to safety. I remember reading something about that. The first man to see land would get a reward and get a yearly pension for life clearly from God. So a young sailor saw land and said, "We isn't far." But Columbus lied and said he saw it the evening before. So therefore he gets the reward. Get it? They touched ground. They were greeted by the Arawak, the natives there. Columbus had them locked up as prisoners in an hour flat. He wanted to find their source of gold, and that was that. And when they thought that wasn't fair, then he stabbed their back. When there's no more gold, he took slaves instead and left 250,000 Indians in Haiti dead. Yeah, true. The men died in mines. The women died at work. The children died from lack of milk and they died in the dirt. They were just taking advantage of a passive people. They were just being the savages of massive evil. That's the church work. That's the path of massive ego. That's the blood of Abraham being stabbed by the steeple. Yeah, that's deep, man. That's like the Abraham, the basically the founder of the three monotheistic religions in the world, the biggest, stabbed by the steeple. In other words, the church themselves have stabbed Abraham in the back by doing the atrocities that they did. That's the truth. When there's no more gold, he took slaves instead, right? Oh wait, I'm way past that. In 1619, they were patiently waiting for a ship that carried slaves that was changing the nation. The white man was the cannibal praying to Satan. Hatred, contempt, a pity of patronization. Vinny, man. Vinny's like, he's like, you guys got some learning to do. Yeah, no doubt, dude. That's the cornerstone everything racism is based in. The African had a more advanced civilization. It depends on what part of Africa. I mean, Africa's a giant continent. Many, many, many different tribes, and so it depends on time periods and everything. I mean, think about this. The Romans had a much more advanced civilization than pretty much everything in Europe until they were conquered by Rome and turned into Romans. And they brought in the roads and aqueducts and all that other fun, fancy shit. And then they were more advanced. So, like, even by the time the Vikings were there trying to conquer Paris, the Vikings were technically lower advanced than this ancient, empire. Even the people, the Anglos and the Saxons in England, were way less advanced. They had lost all of that knowledge from the Romans after the Romans left. Hundreds of years later, you have King Egbert and all those kings kind of like discovering these things that were far more advanced than they were, art-wise and war. And, I mean, so, yeah, totally, Vinny, man, you are just, your shit. It's amazing. But yes, there were definitely more advanced civilizations in Africa, but they weren't advanced at the level of war, the war machine that Europe had advanced at that point, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, very true. Blah, blah, blah. Man, look at these lyrics. Black was slave, master was white, rationalization, 50 million dead. That's a Western civilization. At first they appeared in the North, and they were helpless in the face of superior force. And all of them were chained together. They really was lost. Racism is a natural that's merely racism is a natural that's merely divorced. Before the slave trade, black was considered distasteful by the Oxford Dictionary. That's strange. I have to look that one up. I'm not sure about that. I find it disgraceful. It's not a natural tendency to be bitter and hateful. True. It's the natural enemy of the critical stable. Slavery grew as the plantation system grew. Yeah. The reason for that's kind of easily traceable. Society of helpless dependence was capable or saying, F a slave master, you're in slavery too. Wow, yeah, so this right. 7 slaves were put to death for murdering master. Fear of slave revolt had them developing faster. You a Catalan killer, ineloquent bastard. I would burn the white man while smelling the ashes. From time to time, white man was part of the resistance. That's true. White indentured servants wanted no part of the system. King Philip's War showed that if people would listen, they can maybe break the complex chain of oppression. What is King Philip's War here? King Philip's War.
According to Wikipedia, King Philip's War was an armed conflict in 1675 to 1676 between a group of indigenous peoples of the northeastern woodlands and the English New England colonies and their indigenous allies.
okay. Thank you. Okay. You know, we got to do some learning. It's Vinny, and otherwise we fall behind. And I really love that. I really do love that about him. King Philip's War showed that if people would listen, then that they can maybe break the complex chain of oppression. Tyranny is tyranny, but that's a concession. But the women, they was treated like possessions. Black women had to work because they was abused. That's the white justification of Aryan blues. The next move was to dominate the Mexicans. James Polk dominated them like they was next of kin. Whew. He sent Colonel Cross to lie to them and let them in. Colonel Cross. Okay. Edward E. Cross was a newspaperman and an officer of the Union Army during the American Civil War. I guess he fought in the Civil War. Led the regiment to the Battle of Fredericksburg and the Battle of Chancellorsville. During the Battle of Gettysburg. So it's really talking more about that. I wonder if this is the same guy. I don't know. I don't know if this is the same guy. Edward Cross. The years are 1832 to 1863. I don't know. Maybe. Because I thought that was actually later than that. 11 days later, his skull was crushed. So message sent. We take nothing by conquest. That was the marshal. The military wasn't human. They was just monsters. You know, that's true. That's true. You know, following orders. Henry David Thoreau refused to pay his taxes. Now, that's the poet, right? Refused to pay his taxes, denounced the Mexican War, and got locked in shackles. The 20th century opened. Anger reemerged. The reality of ordinary life was being heard. Anarchists and feminists came from factory work. Communism, socialism seemed to be rebirthed. War is the health of the state, is what Bourne said. It says what Bourne said, and just the way it's spelled. I no, Vinny is. It's not Jason Bourne, dude. Right? It's got to be. I'll have to look that one up too. But that's a little bit more going deeper into a rabbit hole. If anybody knows the answer to what that quote is from, which I'll say again is, "War is the health of the state." Maybe I can just do that. Right. War is the health of the state. Who said that?
According to Wikipedia, John Dos Passos, an
Randolph
influential
Bourne.
American modernist writer, eulogized Bourne in the chapter Randolph Bourne of his novel 1919 and drew heavily on the ideas presented in War is the health of the state in the novel.
Okay. Damn, Benny. Man, this dude. I love this. I consider myself a student for life. So all of this is just, I can just soak this all in. And if you were born around that time, you were born dead. The Espionage Act had people confused because it was double talk and they didn't know how it would be used. Supposedly it was an act against buying. The boys knew that was bullshit and they was lying. Charles Schenck was arrested in Philadelphia for printing and distributing leaflets because they was helping you. He was indicted, tried, and then found guilty and spent 6 months in jail. Don't that sound silly? Yeah. Had his freedom taken away by his own nation. But there's a lesson. Do not submit to intimidation. I like that bar. The act still exists today, and the shit is real. Supposedly, Kennedy tried to have that shit appealed. Eugene Debs did 10 years for no purpose. Eugene Debs.
According to Wikipedia, Eugene Victor Debs was an American socialist, political activist, trade unionist, one of the founding members of the Industrial Workers of the World, and five-time candidate of the Socialist Party of America for President of the United States.
I had no idea. Debs eventually became one of the best-known socialists living in the United States. I guess I'd have to look that up because I have no idea. I've never heard of him before either. He obstructed the recruiting and enlistment service. The post office, so that's what he did. He obstructed the recruiting and enlistment service. And that's why they put him away for 10 years. I have to read about that. The post office started taking mail privileges of magazines who printed anti-war sentiments. A socialist named Fairchild had it right. He said that they can shoot me, but they can't make me fight. They sentenced him to a year in jail, and that was reckless. 65,000 men, conscientious objectors. They were sent to army bases to work there. They were treated sadistically and were hurt there. They were strangled with the hemp rope till they collapsed, and officers punched their stomach and their lower back. A garden hose was placed on their face with a nozzle about 6 inches from them so they couldn't swallow. The war ended in 1918. The government was just trying to wipe the slate clean. Hemingway wrote Farewell to Arms. Dalton Trumbo wrote Johnny Got His Gun. The war was over, but they hadn't learned their lesson. Twin tactics of control, reform, and repression. The patriotic fervor of war had been invoked. That's why the country that you live in is a fucking joke. You cannot be neutral on a moving train. This is a story about the lies that your teacher told you. This is real, actual, factual. No lies in the whole record. If you don't believe me, look it up. I've been trying, Vinny. I'm trying. I'm trying to share the shit that I learned with y'all. Do the knowledge. Your government does not care about you. The people in power do not care about you. Understand that. Power to the people. That's why I don't listen to news anymore. I used to be a news junkie. I used to be a political junkie, addict, you know. But, and, you know, as soon as I was able to vote, which is as soon as 18 came, I've always voted. I've always been up to things. And then, you know, CNN came around at the time, that 24-hour news cycle. And when the Gulf War broke out, man, I was freaking hooked. So I became really hooked into it all. But it has turned into such corruption. I mean, all the media is owned by just, I think, 4 companies. They're all scripted. You can hear news people from across the nation, and they'll all be saying the same thing. It doesn't matter if they're conservative or liberal or they claim to be right in the middle. You'll hear them saying the same thing. Yeah. So I stay away now because it's all bullshit. And I don't care if people get so fervent about our political scene these days. And you're just being lied to, y'all. You are. Sorry. That one and those and that. It's all the same shit. When are we gonna get our heads out of the sand? I mean, I don't know. I don't think honestly ever. I really don't think so. And I think that when there is a big movement and things can change, a lot of times that power vacuum sucks in all kinds of shit. So you never know what you're gonna get. You know, there was like big revolutions, power for the people and everything, and then the person who liberated the country becomes their dictator, locks everything up, and things go horrible. And for a very long time, too. And there's countries out there that are still suffering this sort of oppression. From the power, the man of the people. Sure. So, Vinny, man, you got it right. Matt, thank you very much for putting this on my plate today. This was awesome. You know, listen, there's so much more I'm going to be digging into and really studying a lot of the stuff that he says here. I don't think Vinny's lying to us. I don't think there's anything completely false in here. I just like to know facts and put these pieces together. So hit me up in the comments and tell me what you guys know, what you guys think, and how this makes you think about our world. Until the next time, be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Remember, Uncle Bill here loves you guys. So peace. See ya.